What's up, folks? Welcome to Woodworking Against the Grain. Today is German Chocolate Cake Day. Tomorrow, December the 11th, my dad will be 85 years old. Tomorrow's his birthday. German chocolate's his favorite cake, so we're going to bust him one off here. We're going to make a coconut pecan frosting to go on top of it. This is a 3-layer cake. It's going to be a lot of fun to make and even more fun to eat, so just hang around, all right? What we got right here so far, I got a cup of butter already in the mixer. I'm going to turn that on kind of slow. We're going to add 2 cups granulated sugar to that butter. We're going to let that get happy together. Let it cream a little bit while we sift our flour. I got 2 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking soda. No baking powder in this recipe because we're going to use buttermilk. We're going to reduce the salt down to 1/2 teaspoon because of the buttermilk. So we got flour, salt, baking soda in with the flour. We're going to sift that a couple of times, get the lumps out of the flour, and get the baking soda incorporated with it while our butter and sugar over here is doing its thing. This cake recipe is a little bit different than some you might see because we're going to beat some egg whites and fold them into this batter real gentle like. It's going to make this cake real light and fluffy. But it's also going to be super rich. One you're going to want to hang on to if you've never made a German chocolate cake like this. You're going to want to try this at home. Feed it to those you love. They'll love you for it. We got our flour sifted there a couple of times. That ought to be good enough. You want to cream this butter and sugar till your butter gets kind of pale yellow. See if we can find us a couple of rubber spatulas here, one for each hand. Once that gets going kind of good right there, we're going to stop this. Knock the butter and sugar off our beater. Scrape down the sides of the bowl one good time. Coming on Christmas, too. After a while, we're going to make some red velvet truffles. So you want to hang around for that, too. We're going to try to do that later today. Turn that back on about medium. Let that butter cream just a little bit more. Then we're going to turn it down just a little bit. Right here I've got a package of German sweet chocolate. One package melted down. We're going to add that in just a minute. That's what's going to make this really rich. We got our butter looking pretty good here, so I'm going to slow that down. I got 4 egg yolks, not the whites. Got the whites separate over here. We're going to beat them up like they owe us money in just a minute. Right now, egg yolks only, one at a time. Let that egg yolk get busted up good in there with that butter and sugar, and then add you another. Whoops, both of them went in, but that's all right. Once they get in there, let that roll just a minute. You don't have any flour in here yet, so we can whoop this pretty hard. I'm going to give it one more good scrape down. You see how rich those egg yolks makes that butter look? That's going to be good to eat right there. Always scrape down the sides of your bowl. Don't scrimp on that because you get a lot of ingredients stuck to the side of the bowl there. They'll miss out on being mixed up good. Now, once you get that creamed up pretty good right there, we're going to turn it down just a little bit and add a teaspoon of vanilla. About everything you bake, you need to add a teaspoon of vanilla to. Now, we're going to add this package of melted chocolate to this. While it's running, it's going to kind of drizzle it in there. It's going to make our batter become chocolate cake just magically. You don't want to leave any of this behind. And when you get down toward the bottom, just turn that off. Raise it up. Scrape it off the beater and scrape what's left of your mixing in your mixing cup here. Get all that chocolate that you can get out of there. Into your batter. We won't leave any of that behind if we can help it. Well, I like rubber spatulas. They'll get just about all that out of there. Now, put that back down, turn it back on. Let it go just a little bit there. I'm still here, don't run away. And once you get that chocolate mixed in there pretty good and you can't tell where the chocolate starts and the butter stops, you've got that mixed up just about right. We'll do one more scrape down right here. Just to make sure we don't leave any of this butter on the bottom that don't get mixed up good. Coming along just about right. This cake takes a little bit of time. It's not bad. Now I got 3 9-inch cake pans over here. Already got parchment paper in the bottom of them. I got the oven at 350 degrees. Always be prepared. Be ready. You don't want your oven to have to wait on you. Now, we're going to turn that down. We're going to start adding this flour into this batter. We're going to turn it down pretty slow for that. Just by the heaping tablespoonful. Then we're going to mix it with some of this good full fat buttermilk right here. Just do a little bit of buttermilk, a little bit of flour, till you get all this flour dry ingredients worked in good here. Starts to looking a little dry on you. Add you a little bit more buttermilk till you use up that whole cup. This is going to be a fairly thick cake batter. Probably have to spoon it out onto our cake pans pretty good here. It's a very light and fluffy cake because of those egg whites we're going to whip up and put in there in a minute. Put the rest of that flour in there. I'm going to add the rest of this cup of buttermilk. Now I'm going to turn this mixer up just for a few seconds. We don't want to overbeat this flour. Now, I'm going to scrape off this beater because I got to take it off. What we're going to do now is what really makes this cake super duper yummy. We're going to get us another mixing bowl. Just as soon as we find one. There it is. We're going to swap beaters. Set this over here. We're going to go to our mixing whisk for these egg whites. Put that on there. Put the clean bowl on here. We got 4 egg whites right here that we separated from those yolks. And we're going to turn these on. We're going to beat them like they owe us money up to a stiff peak. And then we're going to slowly fold them into this batter before we put this in our pans. All right, we've got our egg whites here to a nice, good, stiff peak. And we're going to ease these into this cake batter real gentle like. You don't want to knock all that. The whole point of doing this with egg whites is because you incorporate all that air in there. Add you just a little bit of them. Take your time doing this. Don't be in a great big hurry to fold in your egg whites because you don't want to knock all the air out of these. If you do, you're defeating the purpose of having them in there. So you want to just kind of fold them into this chocolate till it kind of looks like Rocky Road ice cream. It's okay if you can still see some of the white. Just mix it into the chocolate fairly well and leave it alone. This is going to make our cake really light, airy, and fluffy when it comes out of the oven, yet let it remain super rich. We've got, this is quite a few egg whites here. 4 large egg whites is what we've got going into this. So they're going to make this cake really light and fluffy. Once you get them folded in good, we're going to put them into these 3 pans. Bake them for about 30 minutes or 35 till they're kind of springy in the center. If you mash down on one of them with your thumb a little bit, kind of bounces back at you. Or a wooden toothpick stuck in the middle comes out clean. You know how to tell if a cake's done. Alright, I'm going to show you this so you can tell how to know when your egg whites are just right. You see that? You can still see some white in that. You don't want to completely cover that up. And we're going to divide this batter somewhat evenly. Now, I've got parchment paper in the bottom of these cake pans. I'm not messing around anymore with butter and flour. If you use parchment paper, you don't have to worry about them sticking. It's a little bit expensive, but your cakes are worth it. Try to get this divided as evenly as you can. Doesn't have to be completely exact, but you want your layers to be about the same. In the oven, 350, about 30 minutes. While they're cooking, we're going to whip up some good coconut pecan icing to put on this cake. Alright folks, we're going to start up on this coconut pecan icing that goes on this German chocolate cake. We got our cake out of the oven. It's sitting over there on some racks cooling. We're going to whip up a really good rich icing to put on this. In this saucepan I'm about to build a fire under. I'm going to put a medium-high heat fire under that saucepan right there. It's got a stick of butter in there. To that stick of butter we're going to add a cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and a cup of evaporated milk. To that, we're going to add 3 beaten egg yolks. Don't be afraid to beat your egg yolks. Beat them up like they owe you money. You get those kind of smooth, add those 3 egg yolks in there to that custard mixture. And I'm not going to make you endure this whole process because it takes a little while to make this icing. When this sugar melts and this whole situation here comes to a boil, it takes 2 things to make this icing just right. It takes a strong right arm, or left arm if you're left-handed, and a little bit of patience, because once this comes to a boil, we're going to boil it really good, a good rolling boil for 12 minutes till it's golden brown and really thick. Once it gets golden brown and really thick, we're going to stop the boiling process, add a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring, about 1.5 cups of chopped pecans, and about 1.5 cups of sweetened flakes of coconut. Then we're going to smear that on all 3 layers of that German chocolate cake. And it's going to be really, really good to eat. I'm going to let this come up to a boil. After it's boiled for a good 12 minutes, we'll come back, cool it off, put it on the cake. Don't run away. All right, we've been boiling this for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to zoom the camera in while I add these other ingredients so you can see what this looks like as we finish it up here. I'm going to zoom in and be right back. All right, we got this. It stopped boiling now. You see how golden brown that is and how thick? That's what you're looking for in this. Now we're going to add our teaspoon of vanilla. Just stir that in. And then we're going to put about a cup to a cup and a half of this flaked coconut in here. And we're going to stir that in. Once you start getting that coconut in there, probably have to change over from a whisk to a wooden spoon. Find a good wooden spoon here. Stir this coconut in. Now you can't do anything with this as far as putting it on the cake till it cools off a whole lot. Now we're going to add our chopped nuts, chopped pecans, about a cup and a half or so. And we're going to add the rest of our cup and a half coconut there. We're going to stir that all together. And when it gets about room temperature, we're going to put it on the cake. See what it tastes like. Don't run off. We'll be back. All right, we got our cakes cool. We got our icing cool. We're about to smear it on this cake. Now, this is not like a buttercream icing. It's got chopped pecans and coconut in it, so it's, you know, it's not smooth. It's kind of a clumpy icing. So I don't usually put it around the sides. What I'm going to do is zoom the camera in so you can see. I'm going to put it on top of each layer, and then the rest of it on top of the top layer, but none around the sides because it just falls off. Then we're going to see if this thing's fit to eat or not. So just let me zoom in here and we'll get started on putting this coconut pecan icing on this German chocolate cake. Don't run off. All right, we're going to take our first layer and lay it on this cake pan. Put this over here by the sink. Now, we're going to take just a good dollop of this icing and put it on top of this first layer. Not going to be real thick because we want to make sure that we've got plenty of icing to do all three layers. And this is not like spreading buttercream icing by any means. Try to stack them up pretty straight. But they sure are good to eat. Try to get this centered on our cake pan here if we can now. We don't want to have to move it after the fact. The rest of this just goes right on top of this. If we'd have got that any thicker, I don't know if we'd have been able to put it on this cake or not. Then there's our German chocolate cake. Normally I'd cut a piece of this and taste of it, but since it's a birthday cake, I'm going to leave it just like this. As always, thanks for watching. Come back to see us.